Indonesia's maritime history has started since the beginning of Indonesia's independence. In the early days of independence, the territory of the Republic of Indonesia refers to the Dutch East Indies Ordination in 1939. Finally, on December 13, 1957, the Juanda Declaration was issued to unite the islands of the archipelago into a single unit, woven by the vast ocean that stretches from Sabang to Merauke. Our sea, our future, our oceans, our legacy. In this episode, we will tell stories about the ups and downs of Indonesia's maritime history, only on Local Wisdom. The sea is indeed a unifying medium because through the sea, humans from different nations can interact and do various kinds of activities. The oceans of the archipelago have always been crowded with ships from various parts of the world carrying trade commodities from one place to another. As a maritime country, there is certainly a lot of our history and traditions that are inseparable from the ocean. Sunda Kelada's central role in the global economic order did not take shape in a short time. As a major port city in Java that emerged in 12th century under the Kingdom of Pajajaran and later under the Sultanate of Banten, Sunda Kelada was visited by various traders, especially from the Middle East and Asian continents, as well as Indonesian archipelago traders around Java Islands, which are now part of Indonesia. Although there are many trading activities there, Sunda Kelada, which in around the 17th century changed its name to Jayakarta, was actually a small town compared to other port cities in the archipelago at the same time, such as the port city of Surabaya and the port city of Makassar. During the Japanese occupation, the name Batavia was changed again to Jakarta, but it did not leave its strength as one of the major port cities in Southeast Asia at that time. Along with the relocation of industries to major countries in East Asia around 60s, Indonesia also experienced rapid industrialization since the mid-80s, and Jakarta remains the main choice for this industrialization. After Sunda Kelada, we move a little bit to the east to central Java, which also has a large port city as a gateway from international trade named Semarang. It is quite difficult to describe the port of Semarang in the trading era centuries ago, because the records of the frenetic crowds that had occurred at that time have long been lost and forgotten, and all that remains are small fragments of history. One of them is the port of Bergota. The port grew in the city of Semarang, which is said to be one of the busiest harbors during the ancient Mataram kingdom. The life of this port is thought to have existed since the 9th century, and today the port of Bergota does not leave any physical traces other than records in history books. The port city of Semarang began to return to life at the beginning of the 15th century. Its position is estimated to be in the Bulu Market area, which extends to Simongan. The coastal area of Semarang was crowded with traders from China. This port became one of the journey stopping points of the Chenghe fleet from China. When visiting several cities on the north coast of Java, the legend of the monumental arrival is immortalized in a building known as Sampokong Temple. The port that we see this time is Kalimas Port located in Surabaya. This port has been established since the 14th century and is no longer the main port since Tanjung Perak Port was built by the Dutch colonial government. Even so, Kalimas Port is still used as a place for loading small ships and barge in Surabaya. In time before the construction of the Tanjung Perak Port, large trading ships could only dock in the Madura Strait. Then barges and small ships would approach the large ship to continue the loading and unloading process to Surabaya city along the Kalimas River. Other traces that we can still find are the Shah Bandar Tower. With a height of up to 10 meters, the presence of this tower marks the existence of the Shah Bandar in the port of Kalimas. This shows how important the existence of this Kalimas port is for the ruler. The Wajo sailors from Makassar since 1676 have formulated guidelines governing the ethics of navigation and trade agreed between them. 3 centuries later, this rule belonging to Wajo sailors was adopted into international maritime law in the 1970s. In modern times, Makassar has become part of the Indonesian Sea Toll program, with the establishment of Makassar New Port, which will be the center of the Indonesian National Shipowner Association for Indonesian national logistic activities. Yo, local heroes from the eastern end of Indonesia, we lean on the port at the western end of Indonesia, precisely in the city of Lok Sumawe. In the maritime history of the archipelago, Lok Sumawe General Port is recorded to have stood since the 7th century AD, along with the entry of Islam into the coastal region of Sumatra, also known as Kruengkeke Port. The port in Lok Sumawe city is located as a feeder port to Belawan Port in North Sumatra. Okay, local heroes, don't go anywhere. After this break, Local Wisdom will return to provide other interesting information. Stay tuned. Well, heroes, you must be curious. What are the traditions? To find out, let's watch the following information. Arms of the Sea has become a tradition of fishing groups in Cilacap, which is carried out from generation to generations. Its essence is the embodiment of gratitude to God for the abundance of fortune to the people who live on the coastline. The form of gratitude is expressed through the banning of offerings called jolen, which means ojo kelalen, or in Indonesian means never forget. What's interesting about this Petik Laut Muncar tradition is that the fishermen will line up their boats that have been decorated with bright motifs and colors, and there will be one main ship that brings offerings to Tanjung Sembulungan, accompanied by other ships. After arriving at the point of the destination, the offerings will be washed into the sea. Then the fishermen plunge into the sea to compete to take the offerings that were washed away. Not just once, the offerings are held twice in a nearby place. Local heroes. There is another marine tradition originating from the Bajo tribe, Central Sulawesi. The name is Bajo Pasakayang. The Bajo Pasakayang festival consists of a series of traditional ceremonies typical of the Bajo tribe, such as the raising of the ula-ula flag, traditional medicine typical of the Bajo tribe, boat carnival, clean the sea ceremony, typical Bajo culinary festival, and colossal operetta performances about the origin of the Bajo tribe. Heroes, do you still remember that in the first segment we discussed the port city of Makassar? Now, there is another one with the same name, the Makassar Island. Makassar Island is an island that is included in the territory of Bau-Bau City, Southeast Sulawesi. Well, the fishermen on the island of Makassar have a tradition that they have maintained since the 16th century. Its name is Ritual Tutu Rangiana Andala. The Tutu Rangiana Andala ritual is a tradition of sea thanksgiving, the purpose of which is to beg the Almighty to open the door of their sustenance from the sea. In addition, this ritual also aims to repel reinforcement when the fishermen are sailing on the high seas. Well, the Pariaman people have been carrying out Tapweek festival for generations since 1826. But heroes, at that time, this festival was still very strong with Middle Eastern culture because it was influenced by Islamic culture brought by Indian traders who traded in Sumatra. Then in 1910, there was an agreement between the countries to implement the Tapweek festival and adapt it to the customs and traditions in Minangkabau. Heroes, traditions and customs in Indonesia are very diverse, and each tradition has its own historical roots and uniqueness that is attached to its society. Therefore, every difference is the reason for us to be able to remain united in differences. Indeed, it is a pride to be a part of the diversity that exists in Indonesia, and only by uniting, the Indonesian nation can become a strong nation. Okay, local heroes, don't go anywhere. After this break, Local Wisdom will return to provide other interesting information. Stay tuned. Local Wisdom. So, local heroes, as we know that the archipelago once had many kingdoms that stood and succeeded at the time. And many of those kingdoms were maritime kingdoms, which had vast territories covering islands scattered throughout the archipelago and had diplomatic and trade relations with kingdoms from other continents. The first kingdom on our list is the Kutai Kingdom. Kutai Kingdom is known as the oldest kingdom in Indonesia. So don't be surprised if the Kutai Kingdom has a very long history. This kingdom has trade relations with India by the sea, even though the location of the Kutai Kingdom itself is not located on the main route of trade in the archipelago. That is one of the reasons why the Kutai Kingdom experienced rapid economic progress until it reached its heyday. Not only that, its glory was also seen from the existence of an educated group consisting of Kshatriya and Brahmin caste. The group most likely had sailed far to India to study in the center Hinduism spread in Southeast Asia. On the list of the next maritime kingdoms is the Singasari Kingdom. Singasari Kingdom is one of the maritime kingdoms in Indonesia, which was founded by Ken Arok after the conquest of the Kediri Kingdom in 1144 AD. At first, the Singasari Kingdom economy was based on an agrarian sphere, but as the area of power grew to the territory north coast of Java, their economic activities expanded to include sea trade and shipping. Unfortunately, local heroes, this kingdom had to collapse after the Jayakatwang rebellion, who's the cousin of King Kertanegara. Traces of the greatness of the Singasari Kingdom can be seen in the relief of its heritage temple, such as Singasari Temple, Candi Jago, Kidal Temple, and several other temples. Sriwijaya Kingdom. Of course, local heroes are familiar with the name. Sriwijaya's name itself is taken from Sanskrit, from the word Sri, which means light, and Wijaya, which means victory. It is no coincidence that the Sriwijaya Kingdom emerged as the dominant maritime power in Southeast Asia at that time. This kingdom, founded by Dapunta Hyang Sri Jayana in the 7th century, and it has a geographical location and abundant natural resources, coupled with the skills of its kings in regulating social conditions, economy, and politics in its territory, paved the way for Sriwijaya to triumph as the greatest maritime nation for several centuries. Apart from being a stopover port for international merchant ships, the Sriwijaya Kingdom, which is located in Sumatra, also has high-value merchandise commodities, such as agar wood sap, resin gum, tin, iron, gold, and of course, various kinds of spices that were very expensive in the European market at that time. All these commodities attracted traders from various parts of the world to stop here. Discussing the maritime kingdom in Indonesia, of course, it cannot be separated from one of the kingdoms which has become the gateway to this archipelago, Samudra Pasai. The kingdom of Samudra Pasai is located in Aceh and is the first Islamic kingdom in the archipelago. Through the records of Marco Polo, an explorer from Italy, we learned that Samudra Pasai was a kingdom that had a port city and was connected with traders and sailors from the Middle East, India, and Europe. This is due to its strategic location on the international trade route, which is located on the northern coast of Sumatra. Heroes, do you know that until now, in this modern era, there are still many kingdoms that stand in Indonesia? One of them is the area of North Maluku. It's the Sultanate of Ternate. Currently, the Ternate Sultanate is led by Sultan Sharifuddin bin Iskandar Muhammad Jabir Shah, who was appointed as the 49th Sultan since 2016, replacing Sultan Mudaffar Shah II. The original name of this sultanate when it was established was the Kingdom of Gapi, but later changed to the Sultanate of Ternate because it followed the name of its capital, the city of Ternate. The Sultanate was founded by Ba'ab Masur Malamo in 1257 AD. And since then played an important role in the sea waters of the eastern part of the archipelago until the 17th century. The Sultanate of Ternate still stands today. However, the Eastern Archipelago Empire led by Ternate has indeed collapsed since the mid-17th century. But the influence of Ternate as a maritime kingdom with a long history is still felt until centuries later. Ternate has a very large share in the culture of the Eastern Archipelago, especially North Sulawesi to the East Coast and Maluku. However, as the successor of ancestral heritage, we must maintain the sovereignty that has been inherited by the predecessors and founder of this country of Indonesia, so that it does not just become a memory for our descendants later. Hopefully, our review this time can add insight and make us more aware of the heritage that must be preserved. Local wisdom.